Okay, well, thank you again for inviting me to come here and read a paper to you on promoting integrity in society. Before I started to prepare myself for this talk, I was asking a number of friends in different countries of the world, evangelicals, what they thought of the topic. And the answer was nonsense. The church has nothing to do with this. The church has a mission to fulfill, and that mission does not include any promoting of integrity and anti-corruption in society. So, in other words, we are dealing with evangelicals around the world, and a majority of those evangelicals do not see any meaning in what we debate and discuss here. So before I do give some practical ideas how to lead your church into a mission of promoting integrity in your community, I'd like to just to reflect on the issue: is the church's mission political or not? Because we have a political topic in front of us. Well, brothers and sisters, the Church of Christ is, in words of Leslie Newbegin, a sign, instrument, and a foretaste of the reign of God. The Church testifies to God's current presence in the world, displays her changed life before the world, and points to the coming eschaton, and works to win the world for God's reign. Her mission is inevitably public. Leslie Newbegin states, I quote, "The community that confesses that Jesus is Lord has been from its beginning a movement launched into the public life of mankind. The Greco-Roman world in which the New Testament was written was full of societies offering to those who wish to join a way of personal salvation through religious teaching and practice. There were several community used Greek words for such societies. At no time did the church use any of those names for itself. It was not and could not be a society offering personal salvation for those who cared to avail themselves of its teaching and praxis only. It was from the beginning a movement claiming the allegiance of all people, and it used to itself with almost total consistence the name ecclesia, the assembly of all citizens called out to accept responsibility for a well-being of a given society. And this ecclesia was had much more august authority behind itself than any town clerk. The ecclesia we talk about was called Ecclesia Tutiu, the assembly called by God, and therefore requiring the attendance of all. The church could have escaped persecution by the Roman Empire if it had been content to be treated as a cultus privatus, or in English, a private cult, one of the many forms of personal religion, but it was not. Its affirmation that Jesus is the Lord implied a public, universal claim that was bound eventually to clash with the cultus publicus, or the public cult of the empire. The Christian mission is those to act out in the whole life of the whole world, the confession that Jesus Christ is the Lord of all. Jesus gave names to his disciples. He named them. For instance, he says to his disciples, "You are the salt of the earth and the light of the world." Matthew chapter 5, verses 13 to 15. They have been called out of the world to accept responsibility for the world. Matthew 16, verse 18. Beyond doubt, the church is intrinsically political, and your mission is a missio politica. And this mission aims to reconcile the world with God, as Apostle Paul claims in 2 Corinthians 5, 18 to 20. In other words, to heal brokenness, restore lives corrupted by sin and selfishness, and bring shalom, or the all-encompassing peace, to the world. Philippians chapter 3, verse 11. So our mission is motivated by God's love for the world, and on the other hand, the complete forlornness under the rule of the forces of darkness. The world cannot save itself any longer. And that's why Jesus came, to destroy the works of the forces of evil. 1 John 3:6. And that is why he sends his disciples to the world, to transform nations. For under the rule of Satan, humans have become selfish, guided by their pleasures in egoistic thoughts, and subject to wrath. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 to 3. And also become a source of quarrels, lack of integrity, and worse. James chapter 4, the verses 1 to 7. The world around us is a corrupted world, a disintegrated world, and the church has to see and see her sending to bring light to the scene and proclaim healing to the ethne, the communities of the world. This, brothers and sisters, is a theological background which motivates the church to promote integrity in society, an integral part of her mission. And the question is, of course, if this is what the Lord includes into our mission task, how do we do this practically? And with the remaining time, I'd like to suggest we use the missional cycle as practical cycle frame for the mission of integrity. This cycle has been developed at the missiological faculty of the University of South Africa and is broadly used for missional orientation in transformational churches all around the world. In Germany, for instance, the cycle has been adapted to the mission of the local church, providing a frame for society transformative church growth and societal change brought by the church. According to this approach, the cycle envisions 6 steps. First, intentional involvement. Secondly, analysis of a spirit-given potential. Third, context analysis. Fourth, plan of action. And fifth, communal action. And sixth, evaluation of your results. Now let's walk quickly through the steps mentioned. First, the church needs to intentionally enter the community to which she belongs. Engaging the people around it, regardless of how corrupt they may be, is the only way to promote integrity. Being without people means you do not change anybody. Not even yourself you are going to change. We follow in this regard the incarnational model of Jesus Christ, our Lord himself, who became men like us in everything, but without sin. Hebrew chapter 4, verse 15. Second step, the church needs to become aware of all the gifts, experiences, and potentials she might have received, given by the Spirit of God among her members to empower her for the mission of transformation. Which gifts of the Spirit, for instance, are directly connected to a mission of integrity? And an analysis of the material, social, intellectual, and religious abilities of a given community of faith will enable her to move into a particular context with a message of reconciliation as displayed in life, deeds, and in words. And third, to bring integrity to community, the church needs to understand the state, source, and forms of corruption in her particular society. This brings a context analysis to the table. And to my knowledge, in most of our evangelical countries, context analysis of a given community is seldom to no time done. Conducting such an analysis together with the community is important, since this will establish right from the beginning that mission is a joint communal act. And fourth, knowing her own potential and understanding the nature of corruption and disintegrity in a given community, the church can then design a plan of action. This might involve material, social, intellectual, as well as religious projects, and should always, always include people from the community. And fifth, understanding the problem and having recruited the change agents and forces, the church can now start to act and hand in hand with the community. And let me tell you, I have observed this in many countries of the world. The change will follow. And sixth, every plan of action needs an evaluative component. We suggest an integrative evaluation, inviting representatives of the community and maybe even experts from outside the community to review the work done and suggest improvements. This simple cycle has been used successfully in many countries of the world. The approach has been worked into a full-size transformative program by the German Institute of Society Transformational Church in Marburg, Germany. It is available today in many languages: in German, Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, Bulgarian, Norwegian, Vietnamese, and Ukrainian, just to mention some of the languages. Parts of it have also been translated and published into English. And we cordially invite you to join hands. The church has a prophetic mission in the world. Without the prophetic voice of the church, corruption and disintegrity becomes the way of life in our societies. To break that way of life means the church needs to enter her mission which includes working towards integrity. Thank you very much for listening to me.